Imagine a ledger from 1872 found in the archive of the New York Children's Aid Society. In it, you see the name of a child, their age, where they came from, and their condition upon arrival. But in the name column, a strange detail appears: 2 words. The first is crossed out with dark ink, and the second is written beside it in a completely different hand. This wasn't a simple correction. It was a deliberate replacement. Between 1854 and 1929, over 200,000 children were sent west on what we now call the orphan trains. They arrived with one name, but the records show they left with another. No one ever asked them. But the story of the orphan trains didn't start with trains at all. It started with a count. In 1849, city inspectors walked the streets of Lower Manhattan and made a shocking estimate. Between 10,000 and 30,000 children were living without stable shelter. They slept in doorways, in ash barrels, under market stalls, surviving by selling matches and newspapers. Some had lost parents to cholera or the brutal conditions of immigrant tenements. Others had parents who were alive but simply couldn't feed them. To the reformers, the distinction didn't matter as much as the number. That number became the argument for action. A young minister's son from Connecticut named Charles Loring Brace founded the Children's Aid Society in 1853. He was just 26. Having spent time in the notorious Five Points district, he was convinced that New York City could not absorb the crisis it had created. His solution wasn't an orphanage or a poorhouse. It was distance. He believed that if the children of the urban poor could be sent to rural farms in the Midwest, placed with families who needed labor, the problem would solve itself. The children would get homes, the families would get workers, and the city would shed its surplus. The logic was clean, and the machinery built to carry it out would run for 75 years. If you're finding this story as gripping as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the Fear Sermon right now. We're uncovering the hidden history that textbooks leave out. The first organized group left in September 1854. 46 children boarded a train in New York and rode to Dowagiac, Michigan. A local committee of respected men was assembled to evaluate placement families and distribute the children. They brought the kids to a central location, and the families came to look. Selections were made. The word used most consistently in records is placed. The children were placed. Between 1854 and 1929, the Children's Aid Society alone transported over 100,000 children. Other groups, like the New York Foundling Hospital and the Boston Children's Aid Society, added tens of thousands more. In total, an estimated 200,000 to 250,000 children traveled to 47 states, territories, Canada, and Mexico. Each child was recorded: name, age, description, origin, but the records were kept because the organization needed them, not because the children did. And that difference is where the eraser begins. The name a child arrived with was often an immigrant name: Irish, German, Italian. It was tied to a family, a language, a world that the farming communities of the rural Midwest did not share. So when a child was placed with a family named Weber in Illinois or Harrington in Missouri, a practical question arose: what would this child be called? In many cases, the answer was supplied by the receiving family without consultation and without documentation. The child's surname became the family's surname. Sometimes the given name changed too. In the agency's ledgers, they exist under one name. In the county census records, they appear under another. No document bridges the two. The legal framework at the time gave the child no standing. Indenture agreements were contracts between the agency and the family, with the child as the subject, not a party. These agreements didn't require preserving the child's original name. They didn't require the family to stay in touch, and they often didn't require court oversight. Formal adoption, when it happened, didn't reliably connect the child's new legal name to their old identity. A probate court in rural Kansas recorded what it was given: a child's new name, a family's name, a date. What the child was called before arriving in Kansas was not the court's concern. Let's be conservative. If just 5% of 200,000 placed children experienced a name change that severed their identity, that's 10,000 children existing in two separate archives, under two separate names with no link between them. but 5% is a low estimate. Researchers today say name discrepancies are one of the biggest obstacles to tracing these lives. You have sibling groups placed in different states, searching for each other decades later. They search under the name they shared in New York, but the brother or sister doesn't appear in the records because their surname was changed. They lived out their lives in neighboring states, neither knowing the other was just miles away. This wasn't just administrative failure. The name changes followed a pattern. A child with a surname like Kowalski frequently emerged with a surname that was nothing in particular. A Catholic child placed with a Protestant family often had their given name changed. No single directive caused it. It happened because every part of the system pointed in the same direction. A child with no standing, a family with full discretion, an agency with no enforcement, and a community that valued assimilation over history. It was a machine, not because anyone designed it, but because every moving part led to the same outcome. What was lost wasn't just a collection of names. It was 200,000 individual lines of continuity, the thread running from a person back to a place, a language, a family. Parents who surrendered their children, believing the country would offer them a better life, had their own names, their own villages in County Clare or the Rhineland. Their children arrived in Nebraska and became someone else entirely. The grandchildren grew up in households where a whole branch of the family tree simply didn't exist. The platform where those children stepped off the train in a town they'd never heard of is still there in many places. You can walk on it. Nothing marks it. Nothing indicates what happened there in the 1870s and 80s, when a group of children from New York waited to find out what they would be called. The platform is still there, but the name is not. If you made it to the end of this story, drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Should these histories be preserved in a different way? And share this video with someone who loves deep, untold American history. Thanks for watching The Fear Sermon.